I wanted to talk about how I was feeling these past few minutes, um, and how I'm processing and filtering and um, sort of recentering and balancing myself. Um, Things that come up for me um, are deep set insecurities around not being believed, and furthermore, being told that I'm mad or insane. And then that person, sort of, whoever it is that's telling me this hypothetical situation, um, using instances as examples to support their claim that I'm insane. Um, and it's kind of like it's the old adage, really, isn't it? Where it's kind of like the more someone attempts to prove their sanity, the more crazy they seem to look. And I think for me, this is the point where it's an opportunity for clarity and understanding and peace to arise within. So, for example, the saying, if you love someone, you've got to let them go. I think for me, when when you when okay, so having met someone and feeling that there's a very profound connection, and finding that balance between reaching out to that person while simultaneously being respectful and honoring what they're sharing with you is really important. And I think on on some occasions, like in Bridget Jones, for example, um, at one point Bridget says, you never did fight for me. You couldn't, fight for me, um, and if I was in that mindset, wanting to be fought for, or the love to be fought for, the relationship, kind of like stand up to people, get a grip, don't let me just walk away, like share your truth, like if you love me, which is what you say you do, why aren't you behaving in alignment with that love and kind of like being with me or whatever. In which instance, from that perspective, the sentence, if you love someone, you gotta let them go, kind of would be like, well, that's a bit of a cop out, isn't it? If you love me and you want to be with me, then be with me. I love and want to be with you. So in that instance, it's kind of like the opposite of the meaning. But in moments like this, when I've got severe anxiety about other people's perspectives and um, my responsibility as part of the collective to be considerate to other people's decisions and choices. Um, in that instance, find it quite empowering because I find a sense of clarity in that sentence. If you love somebody, let them go. Because I don't want to act or behave in a way that's perceived to be for example, harassment or obsession or infatuation to a point where that person feels unsafe or uncomfortable or frightened. I'm not saying that that's what I believe is happening. I just mean there comes a point where my need for me and my need for independence and, you know, my own life and sort of things to do in my world and my own dreams, like I need, like, it's important for me to be together for that, like within myself, like to be able to be focused, to be able to take care of myself, to be able to flourish and live a healthy, balanced lifestyle. I think in those instances, it's really very important for me to keep perspective of the bigger picture and to know that, you know, loving relationships can enter our life at any point, at any juncture, and it doesn't always have to be now, and it doesn't always have to be them, you know, that person or that person. And, you know, there are people in the world, I believe, that I've yet to meet in my life that are gonna be really important players and really wonderful friends. And I just I don't think the anxiety that I'm feeling comes from a short sketch which I've just watched. And obviously there's the comedy element, which is fantastic because it allows for topics to be broached without that sort of foreboding intensity, because there's a comedic element, but actually it's really good way of teaching life lessons to people, or allowing for there to be an instance where people can come away feeling enlightened to something that they didn't previously, or a perspective they hadn't previously considered before, which is why I think art, the creative arts, television, stage, film, these things are amazing experiences because they allow for people to be taken on a journey to reach conclusions, to find clarity about pre-existing things within their lives, and also to help them prepare and give them a sort of treasure chest of not necessarily fancy dress costumes or dress up, but a treasure chest of things to fall back on when they're faced with difficulties in their life, because they've experienced an emotional realization in a previous environment. For example, things in films or in theatre or TV or stage or whatever it might be, where they've been taken on a journey by the characters that they've been watching, by the experience, by the creative sort of artistry, where they're empathizing. I mean, even books with characters where they're empathizing with a character and the feelings are very real. Like, the feelings are very real. And a lot of people, especially nowadays with the situations that we've been faced with, people have very palpable senses of loss or happiness based on what happens to characters in their favorite movies or films. And there's sometimes there's an intense sense of relatability to characters, or sometimes something's completely new and it's like a revelatory experience or an educational experience or an epiphany even. And the sketch that I was watching was between two characters, and one of the characters perceived themselves, from my interpretation, perceived themselves to be very devoted, very dedicated, and very passionate and impassioned and committed. And the other character was expressing a different perspective, and they were expressing that the behavior from their perspective was that it was obsessive, that it was um infatuation, that it was time to move on. And it was so fascinating that the same scenario or the same situation can be so different for the people involved. And I actually found it really brought up a lot of fears. Like, I got this feeling in my chest, and I felt like I didn't want to watch, and I felt like ashamed and fearful. I felt afraid. I felt, oh my God, I've posted a video about this twin flame journey, which is basically, someone saying, I've met someone, and on an energetic level, I know that you're the one for me, even though your 3D self, might not be aware of that. I know better, and I, believe in this love. And then the other person might be like, what are you on about? Like, there's a reason why I don't reply to your messages. It's because I'm not interested. I think you really need to accept that. And then when we look at the twin flame journey, there are a lot of videos that sort of almost deny that person's choice in saying, I no longer want involvement or interaction with this, because they're saying, oh, well, the reasons why this person is being quiet is because they've gone inside to process, they've gone inside to understand what you've brought up for them. But you'll always be together, you'll always be, love is unbreakable. And I just think it's such a delicate situation to find oneself in, to be fully immersed in that way of thinking without having a solid foundation on a personal and private level within yourself, within your community, within your reality. And it can actually be really frightening. And yeah, I just felt like I was almost having a panic attack, and all this doubt washed over me, and this fear. And I think it's really important to actually listen to those, because again, in a lot of these community online twin flame videos, they're saying, ignore the doubt, ignore the fear, like, step away from it. And I don't pertain to that mentality particularly, certainly not in this instance. And I perceive those emotional experiences or physiological sensations in my body that we relate to an emotional experience. I see them as warning signs, and I see them as red flags, and I heed them warnings. I'm not saying I'll sit obsessively and analyze it. I'm just saying immediately I'm thinking something resonates with me. I mean, like I was saying, I was watching a comedy sketch show, and something is like happening to me watching this, and it was just this fear and this panic of being perceived as crazy or obsessive, when actually, I don't feel that way about myself, but being perceived that way is really frightening for me, especially the concept of living in a society where other people make decisions about our health and our healthcare every day, and that there are, effects like to the way we choose to interact and how we choose to express ourselves and carry ourselves throughout life. And I really wanted to sit with that. I really wanted to explore it, not for an excessive period of time, but I just didn't want to ignore it, didn't want to shove it away. And what I've realized is I've come up with this kind of understanding that when I was growing up, it was it was me and my mum, and I think there was a lot of fear around expressing emotion, like being frustrated, like, oh, like I've got so much pressure on me at the moment and I need to just like let it out, like stressful situations, worrying about money, being a single parent, not feeling emotionally supported or accepted by your family, all of these things. And then when, like, if my mum's partner was there, well, he's a male, he's a man, like, there was then this extra added element of being self-conscious about how you're going about expressing emotion. Like, if it was just me and my girlfriends, say for example, in a situation, and I was like, oh my god, this thing happened to me today and it was so fucking annoying, and the girls might just be like, oh my god, babe, what happened? Whereas in past relationships, say for example, I've gotten home, or like with my ex, I would spend a lot of time at his house with his children, and like if I got back, even, I'm not saying the kids would be there, but if I got back and I was like, oh, this thing happened to me today, I remember the things he used to say to me, like, oh, you're having one of your episodes, babe, and he used to fucking say horrible shit to me, which was so demeaning and so demoralizing and so belittling that it disempowered me when actually I was in a really grounded place, because I was acknowledging that something had frustrated me. I was, sharing that frustration with someone I loved and trusted at the time. And it's created a neural pathway in my brain, because I've been watching these videos with Lewis Howes, and he like speaks to like scientists and doctors and stuff. And there's like, I watched a few other YouTube documentary things about neural pathways and creating, like, when we're a kid, if we're constantly told off all the time for showing certain types of emotions, we learn that in order to receive love and affection and acceptance, in order to survive as a child in a family household, there are certain ways we do or don't behave. Even though someone might not have said out loud, you can't cry, if every time we cry we get mistreated or neglected or rejected, we naturally learn to do the things, to stop doing those things that create negative responses, and to start doing the things more that create less frightening or more lovely experiences. And I feel like those past situations where I've been in relationships with people who haven't been supportive of my kind of like emotional freedom or my empowerment on a personal level as a strong, independent woman, has like really affected me. And like with new relationships now, like for example, I know I mentioned with the twin flame journey, like meeting someone and there being a profound connection and being like, whoa, and then meeting them again and it being like, maybe this was something, I don't know, like what the fuck, I don't know, but fine, whatever. And then, not hearing from them or speaking to them, and like having my own troubles in my own life and getting on with my own world, and then randomly bumping into this person and spending some time with this person, and there being reciprocation to a degree that was unquestionable in my opinion. And and then kind of like real life kind of like happening again, even though that is real life, I'm just like trying to create a concept of continuation on a different like timeline. So like returning back to my world away from that person and being like, kind of distracted and having to being pulled away basically, and having to deal with other life challenges. And when I have like moments like this, it's a Sunday here, like it's a really beautiful day, it's really calm, and like I was like treating myself to watching a bit of comedy, and I felt really relaxed and really safe. And it's when I almost let my guard, it's almost like when I let my guard down, and I'm like, I am allowed to like take care of myself, and I am allowed to like feel relaxed and feel safe. That's when it's almost scary for me, because I think, well, if I'm feeling safe now, then that's when something's going to happen. Because in the past, when I've felt when I've been made to feel safe by someone I've trusted, that's when I've been violated. And I can see those like neural pathways, and I'm like having to like catch myself. And that's why when I do experience fear or feel fear, or anxiety or doubt, I don't necessarily like try and rise above it or anything like that. Like I want to know like what's happening inside me. Anyway, just wanted to share. Farewell, lovely beings.